XRP has long been one of the most talked about cryptocurrencies in the digital asset market, and the idea of the biggest breakout of the XRP coin is closely connected to its unique purpose, its long history, market psychology, and the gradual changes happening in global finance. XRP was created by Ripple Labs with a very clear goal: to make cross-border payments faster, cheaper, and more efficient than traditional banking systems like SWIFT. Unlike many cryptocurrencies that focus mainly on decentralization or store of value narratives, XRP was designed from the beginning as a bridge currency that could move value across borders in seconds, with extremely low transaction fees and high scalability. This practical use case is one of the strongest reasons why investors, institutions, and analysts continue to believe that a major breakout for XRP is always possible. Over the years, XRP has gone through multiple boom and bust cycles, often moving sharply when the broader crypto market turns bullish, but also showing independent strength whenever Ripple announces new partnerships, technological upgrades, or legal clarity. The concept of a biggest breakout usually refers to a moment when XRP decisively breaks above long-standing resistance levels, supported by strong volume, positive sentiment, and fundamental developments that change how the market values the coin. Historically, XRP has been known for long periods of consolidation, where price action remains relatively quiet compared to other top cryptocurrencies, followed by sudden explosive moves that surprise traders who underestimated its potential. This pattern has made XRP famous for sharp rallies that can happen very quickly once momentum builds. One of the most important factors behind a potential massive breakout is adoption. Ripple has worked for years to partner with banks, payment providers, and financial institutions around the world, especially in regions where cross-border payments are slow and expensive. As more institutions test or adopt Ripple's technology, the demand for XRP as a liquidity tool can increase, creating upward pressure on price. Another key driver of a major breakout is regulatory clarity. XRP's market performance has historically been influenced by uncertainty around regulation, particularly in the United States, and whenever there is progress toward clarity, confidence tends to return to the market. Investors generally dislike uncertainty, and once legal or regulatory risks begin to fade, sidelined capital often flows back in, fueling strong price movements. From a market structure perspective, the biggest breakout of XRP would likely occur when long-term holders refuse to sell at previous resistance levels, forcing short sellers to cover their positions and attracting momentum traders who chase strength. This creates a feedback loop where rising prices attract more attention, more volume, and more buying pressure. Technical analysts often point to XRP's habit of forming large accumulation ranges, sometimes lasting months or even years, before breaking out in a dramatic fashion. When these ranges finally resolve to the upside, the resulting move can be powerful because so much energy has been built up during consolidation. On the psychological side, XRP has one of the most loyal communities in the crypto space, often referred to as the XRP Army, and while hype alone cannot sustain long-term value, strong community belief can amplify momentum during bullish phases. Social media activity, search trends, and renewed mainstream media coverage often play a role in accelerating XRP rallies once price starts moving. Macroeconomic conditions also matter. In times when traditional financial systems face stress, inefficiencies in cross-border payments become more visible, and blockchain-based solutions like XRP gain attention as alternatives. Additionally, as central banks explore digital currencies and real-time settlement systems, the infrastructure Ripple has built positions XRP as a potential bridge between different financial networks. A true, biggest breakout scenario for XRP would likely involve a combination of factors happening at the same time: strong overall crypto market sentiment, increased institutional adoption, regulatory progress, and a technical breakout above key historical levels that traders have watched for years. When these elements align, price can move rapidly because liquidity on exchanges may not be sufficient to absorb sudden demand without pushing price significantly higher. It is also important to understand that XRP's supply structure is different from many other cryptocurrencies, with a large portion of tokens already created and released gradually, which affects how price responds to changes in demand. When demand spikes faster than expected supply distribution, price appreciation can be sharp. Long-term investors often view such a breakout not just as a speculative pump, but as a re-rating of XRP's value based on its real-world utility and role in the evolving financial ecosystem. However, like all cryptocurrencies, XRP remains volatile, and major breakouts are usually followed by periods of correction or consolidation as the market digests gains. The biggest breakout is rarely a straight line upward. Instead, it often comes in waves, with pullbacks that test conviction before the trend continues. Understanding this helps explain why XRP's explosive moves can feel sudden and dramatic, yet are often the result of years of development, patience, and gradual changes behind the scenes. In summary, the biggest breakout of the XRP coin represents more than just a price increase. It reflects a moment when technology, regulation, market psychology, and adoption converge to redefine how the market values XRP. Such a breakout would signal renewed confidence in Ripple's vision of faster, cheaper global payments and could place XRP once again at the center of discussions about the future of digital finance, capturing attention from retail investors, institutions, and the broader financial world all at once. The continuation of the XRP breakout story goes deeper into how market cycles, investor behavior, and real-world utility combine to shape one of the most anticipated moves in the cryptocurrency space. After years of being undervalued in the eyes of many investors, XRP sits at a unique crossroads where patience, technology, and timing intersect. One of the most important elements behind a potential historic breakout is liquidity. XRP was built specifically to solve liquidity problems in global finance, especially for cross-border transactions where funds are often locked for days in Nostro and Vostro accounts. Ripple's on-demand liquidity system uses XRP as a bridge asset, allowing money to move instantly between currencies without pre-funded accounts. As global payment volumes increase and financial institutions seek more efficient systems, the relevance of XRP grows stronger. This rising relevance does not always reflect immediately in price, but when the market finally recognizes the value of real utility over speculation, price discovery can happen very fast. Historically, markets tend to underprice assets during periods of uncertainty and overprice them during moments of excitement, and XRP has spent a long time in the former phase. This long compression phase is often what precedes the most powerful breakouts, because it shakes out weak hands while long-term believers quietly accumulate. Another critical aspect of XRP's breakout potential lies in institutional behavior. Large institutions do not chase price in the same way retail traders do. Instead, they build positions slowly and strategically during low volatility periods. When institutions begin to move, their transactions are often invisible to the public at first, but their impact becomes obvious once liquidity tightens and price starts rising sharply. At that point, retail investors notice the movement and rush in, creating a second wave of demand. This two-stage process has been observed in traditional financial markets for decades, and there is no reason the crypto market should behave differently. XRP's relatively low transaction cost and fast settlement time make it attractive not only for banks but also for remittance companies, fintech platforms, and even emerging markets where financial infrastructure is still developing. As adoption spreads quietly in the background, price can remain stagnant, which often frustrates holders, but this frustration is usually a sign that the asset is still in its accumulation phase. The biggest breakout often happens when frustration turns into disbelief, and disbelief turns into shock as price suddenly accelerates. From a technical perspective, XRP has spent extended periods forming large base structures on higher time frames, something technical analysts consider a bullish sign when combined with declining selling pressure. These bases act like compressed springs, storing energy over time. When price finally breaks above major resistance levels that have capped it for years, those levels often flip into strong support, allowing the trend to continue higher with confidence. Momentum indicators during such breakouts tend to remain elevated for longer than expected, which is why traders who wait for perfect pullbacks often miss the bulk of the move. Another factor that amplifies XRP's breakout potential is narrative rotation within the crypto market. Different phases of the market favor different stories. Sometimes the focus is on decentralized finance, sometimes on meme coins, sometimes on artificial intelligence, and sometimes on infrastructure and payments. When the narrative shifts back to real-world use cases and regulatory-compliant blockchain solutions, XRP naturally comes back into focus. Media coverage plays a powerful role in this phase, because once mainstream outlets begin discussing XRP not as a controversial asset but as a functional payment solution, perception changes rapidly. Perception, in financial markets, often moves price faster than fundamentals alone. As more people understand what XRP is actually designed to do, demand increases not just from traders but from users who see it as a tool rather than a gamble. A true historic breakout would also have a strong emotional component. Fear of missing out becomes widespread, trading volume spikes, and XRP trends across social platforms and search engines. This attention brings new participants into the market, some of whom may be buying cryptocurrency for the first time. While this phase can lead to overextension in the short term, it also expands the holder base, which can support higher price levels in the long run. It is important to note that no breakout happens without challenges. Volatility increases, profit-taking occurs, and negative news can cause temporary pullbacks. However, in a genuine breakout scenario, these pullbacks tend to be shallow and quickly bought, showing that demand remains strong. Long-term investors often view such volatility as confirmation that the asset has entered a new phase rather than as a reason to exit. In the broader picture, the biggest breakout of XRP would represent a shift in how the market values utility-focused cryptocurrencies. It would signal that speed, cost, efficiency, and integration with existing financial systems matter just as much as decentralization and scarcity. This shift could attract a different class of investors who previously stayed away from crypto due to concerns about practicality and regulation. In essence, recognition of years of development, recognition of real-world use cases, and recognition that some of the most powerful market moves happen only after long periods of silence. When that recognition finally becomes widespread, XRP's breakout would not just be a price event, but a moment that reshapes its position in the global financial narrative. XRP breakout story focuses on the long-term impact such a massive move could have on the cryptocurrency market, global finance, and investor mindset. When XRP enters a true breakout phase, it does not happen in isolation, it influences sentiment across the entire market. Historically, when a major legacy cryptocurrency like XRP begins outperforming, it signals a broader shift toward established projects with proven infrastructure. This attracts conservative investors who may have avoided highly speculative assets and instead prefer coins with clear use cases and institutional connections. XRP's role as a bridge asset becomes especially important in this phase, because global finance is moving toward instant settlement, reduced friction, and digital-first infrastructure. Traditional systems are slow, expensive, and fragmented, and once institutions experience the efficiency of blockchain-based solutions, it becomes difficult to return to outdated methods. A powerful XRP breakout would reinforce the idea that blockchain is no longer experimental but operational, which is a major psychological shift for banks, governments, and corporations. This shift could lead to increased demand not only for XRP but for blockchain solutions built around compliance and interoperability. Another crucial element of a historic breakout is long-term price discovery. For years, XRP's price has been influenced more by speculation and uncertainty than by utility-driven valuation. A sustained breakout would suggest that the market is finally pricing XRP based on its actual role in global liquidity rather than short-term hype. This revaluation process often takes time, moving in stages rather than one explosive candle. Early stages are driven by informed investors, followed by broader market participation, and eventually by mainstream recognition. Each stage brings new buyers, new narratives, and new levels of support. During this phase, volatility remains high, but the overall trend reflects growing confidence rather than emotional trading alone. Long-term holders who endured years of sideways movement often see this moment as validation of their patience, while new investors see XRP as a gateway into utility-focused crypto investing. From a macro perspective, the biggest breakout of XRP could align with changes in global monetary systems. As countries explore digital currencies and faster settlement rails, interoperability becomes a key challenge. XRP's design allows it to connect different currencies and systems without replacing them, making it a practical solution rather than a disruptive threat. This positioning increases the likelihood of gradual but widespread adoption, which supports sustained value growth rather than short-lived speculation. Market cycles also play an important role in how the breakout unfolds. In strong bull markets, capital rotates from high-risk assets into fundamentally strong projects as investors seek stability within growth. XRP often benefits during these rotations because it combines liquidity, brand recognition, and real-world application. Once momentum builds, technical traders, algorithmic systems, and institutional desks amplify the move through increased volume and participation. This creates a self-reinforcing trend that can last far longer than most expect. However, maturity is what ultimately separates a historic breakout from a temporary spike. A mature breakout is characterized by higher lows, strong support zones, and consistent demand even during pullbacks. If XRP achieves this structure, it signals that the asset has entered a new phase of its life cycle. In the end, the biggest breakout of the XRP coin would not simply be remembered for how high the price went, but for what it represented. It would mark the moment when utility, regulation, and technology aligned with market belief. It would show that patience can be rewarded in markets dominated by short-term thinking. Most importantly, it would confirm XRP's place as a serious player in the future of digital finance, proving that real-world solutions can eventually break through noise, doubt, and delay to claim their value on the global stage.